be diving in 3, 2, 1.
In the eerie world of deep, dark dungeons, mystery and magic seem real.
When I was a kid, my father had a set of old Dungeons & Dragons advanced rulebooks from his own childhood. I spent hours looking through the monster manual and the player's handbook. My mind would go wild with the prospects of adventure through imaginary worlds teeming with the magical and surreal. I was drawn deeper still when my father took the time to read me the entirety of The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, a few chapters a night before bed. He even did the voices. It's one of my fondest memories and probably what cemented a lifelong love of the fantasy genre in me. For years, this interest stuck with me, despite the lack of people around who were interested in playing tabletop role-playing games. My first descent into Dungeons & Dragons took the form of BioWare's 1998 title, Baldurs Gate. Baldurs Gate was an isometric RPG that cast the player in the role of an orphan cared for by the sage Gorion in the fortress library of Candlekeep. BioWare used the Infinity Engine to run the AD&D rules in real time, bringing the traditionally turn-based game to life. Your character, the orphan's past, is shrouded in mystery, unknown to them or you. The player and their life in Candlekeep is relatively privileged, but mundane. Since the orphan's past is shrouded in mystery, that leaves you, the player, to customize any aspect of their background and training. The adventure begins when a suddenly distant Gorion hands you a sum of gold for equipment and supplies for the purpose of a very urgent journey. From there, the story quickly heats up and develops into an epic adventure along the Sword Coast, filled with a great supporting cast of side characters to fill out your party and do with as you see fit. The beautiful hand-painted background environments, the freedom of movement, and most of all, the idea that dialogue choices had consequences and impact on the story, while not entirely new, were revolutionary at the time, and the game remains enjoyable to this day, prompting the release of an enhanced edition that includes an expansion in 2019, over 20 years after its original release. The Baldur's Gate legacy is extensive, and its formula not only inspired a sequel, Baldur's Gate 2, but also received the enhanced edition treatment. A companion series, Icewind Dale 1 and 2, developed by Obsidian and Black Isle Games, also using the Infinity Engine, which takes place far to the north in the frigid and wind-torn lands of Icewind Dale, which also, you guessed it, received the enhanced edition. Unfortunately, the source code for Icewind Dale 2 was lost, and Beamdog had to scrap its plans for an Icewind Dale 2 enhanced edition. Diverging from the previously mentioned titles, in 2001, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance hit the console market to critical acclaim. Instead of the point-and-click semi-turn-based system on painted backgrounds used in the game's namesake, this was a hack-and-slash adventure game. You still begin your adventure as an unknown, but without the customization typically offered by Dungeons & Dragons. The game offers a choice of 3 races and classes: Vaughn, the human archer, Adriana, the elven sorceress, and Cromlech, the dwarven fighter, all of them with their own complementary feats. Once you beat the game, on any difficulty, you unlock the Gauntlet, a hidden dungeon that you can attempt as R.A. Salvatore's Dris Duerden. Upon completion, you unlock Extreme Mode, which is essentially a New Game Plus where you import an existing character. If you beat the game on Extreme Mode, you unlock Dris as a fully playable character. At the time, I thought that was really cool. It was an amazing co-op experience, which I played through multiple times with my father. I still remember spending the early parts of the game in the Elfsong Tavern, surrounded by the haunting melody of its namesake, a ghostly elf maiden mourning a love lost at sea. In 2002, the king, the God King of the fantasy genre, and BioWare's crowning achievement, in my opinion, Neverwinternights came out. It ran on a modified version of Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition rule set. Despite a lackluster single-player campaign included with the game, Neverwinternights offered the most compelling digital Dungeons & Dragons experience yet. Using the power of the Aurora engine, it was now possible for individuals to create and share their own modules with the community. An explosion of content followed, leaving the main campaign in the considerable shadow of amazing community-made modules, such as the Island Saga, Prophet, and Shadewood. In addition, there are the persistent worlds, Aerolith, Amia, EFU, Ravenloft, Prisoners of the Mist, and many more. These community-made original worlds allow for compelling narratives to be told both from organized events led by dungeon masters and interactions between the players themselves. They add a level of unprecedented agency, where you truly forge your own legend in an ever-changing and dynamic environment that has not been matched to the same quality since. Across these online realms, I constructed and participated in amazing stories. Sir Franz, an aging once-landed knight who backed the wrong leader during the Damaran Civil War and was forced to hand his lands over to his father-in-law, and will stop at nothing and by any means necessary to forge a fortune, restore his family name, and secure an inheritance for his son. A conscripted peasant farmer, devout follower of Ilmater, forced from his home by the local lord and used to further the greed and ambition of his master through acts of violence. Exploring the turmoil of his mind as he is forced to betray his morals and his god until it becomes too much to bear. All of this in a world that was changing with my and everyone else's characters all playing on one another. This was more than a game. It was a deep dive into the human psyche on par with the Twilight Zone. It deepened my understanding of empathy, philosophy, the material conditions that mold us. Through these worlds, I was able to explore the powers and conditions that shape human lives in a way that didn't require a passport or expensive equipment. There is something that all these titles share: the ability to create a legend from a complete unknown. To make a story that is all your own. You do this through your deeds and your decisions, and that is why it's special. Neverwinternights did receive a sequel developed by Obsidian that released in 2006. While offering the same level of freedom and creative accessibility, it did not have the affection from the community, nor the longevity of the original game, being plagued by poor performance and unpopular mechanics changes. Originally, I had planned on criticizing the new Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance title, scheduled to release later this year, but I feel that would be unfair to what the game is intended to be, and to all those who eagerly anticipate it. It's a Souls-like action-adventure game set in the Icewind Dale region featuring Ari Salvatore's companions of the Hall, Dris Duerden, Catti Bree, Braenor Battlehammer, and Wulfgar, the champion of Tempest. You won't be forging your own legend, but experiencing one. There are a lot of people invested in the story of the companions. It spans decades and is composed of a plethora of novels, so I can see why making such a title would be worthwhile for both the good of the community and the health of the franchise. But I would like to say something to Wizards of the Coast, though, or whoever buys a license to publish a D&D game. The Dungeons & Dragons game that has been published with the most longevity is nearly 20 years old at this point, and still has a large and loyal following. That creative freedom that I preached about, the basis of what Dungeons & Dragons is, that dive into your own psychology and problem solving. With the revival of the pen and paper genre, it's plain to see the community would happily receive another.